They painted you as the villain, with trembling hands and confident voices, not because you were monstrous, but because you saw through their masks. They spun tales like silk, twisted your name around their tongue until even you started to doubt its purity. They told the world you were cold, manipulative, self-perninger. They dragged your character through their narrative, hoping the mud would stick, and for a while it did. People believed them. Why wouldn't they? Lies always wear better costumes than truth. You stayed quiet, not because you had nothing to say, but because you were collecting, recording, watching the prophecy unfold. And now, it's getting crazy. Because everything they warned others about happened to them. Every accusation, every projection, boomeranged back with surgical precision. And the irony? It cuts deeper than anything you could have ever said. You didn't need to raise your voice. Life did it for you. It orchestrated their undoing like a symphony of poetic justice. The betrayals they said you were guilty of, now their own inner circle sings songs of disloyalty. The instability they swore was your curse, it's cracking through their own facade. They said you were too much, too emotional, a little dangerous. And now they're drowning in their own dramatics, swallowed by the chaos they created. That's the thing about projection. It's not just a defense mechanism. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. What we accuse others of without cause usually festers in our own shadows. They weren't warning people about you. They were describing themselves, hoping no one would notice. But you noticed. You always did. You just waited for the timeline to catch up. Were framed as the storm while they danced in lightning. They pointed fingers with trembling morality, forgetting that the truth has teeth. And now, those teeth are sunk into their story, tearing through their script, exposing every falsehood they whispered about you. You didn't have to confront them. Time did the interrogation for you. It dragged them into scenes they swore they'd never be part of. Now they're the ones being ghosted. They're the ones losing sleep. They said you were obsessive, couldn't let go. Now they check your page in secret, refresh your life like an addiction. It's not just karma, it's correction. A course reset, and the irony, it's brutal. Because no one is more haunted than a liar, exposed by their own plotline. Psychologically, projection is the defense of the insecure. It's the weapon of cowards. When someone fears their own darkness, they smear it onto others. They create villains out of the innocent because facing their reflection is unbearable. So they use you like a smokescreen. Their lies weren't just about damaging you. They were about hiding from themselves. But now their reflection is too loud to silence. They're living in the story they swore was yours. And you walk clean. Not because you're perfect, but because you never needed deception to protect your peace. They forged a prison out of their own paranoia. And now, that cage is closing around them. There's no script for how this reversal plays out. No grand announcement. Just subtle shifts. The people who once raised their eyebrows at your name are now whispering theirs with pity. The ones who doubted your side of the story are now experiencing the full weight of their behavior firsthand. And the liar, they can't rewrite the ending anymore. They ran out of ink. Their allies are dwindling. Their mirrors are screaming, and you're still standing. That's the most devastating part for them. You survived. Not just survived, flourished. You became untouchable by doing the one thing they never thought you would. Absolutely nothing. You let truth do the talking. In truth, you used to wonder if speaking out would have changed the outcome. But now you see it was always going to circle back. Because energy is circular. Intentions, like arrows, always return to their cinder. And theirs were poisoned. They aimed to destroy what they didn't understand, and now the aftermath is swallowing them. They're trying to control the fallout, but the cracks are too deep. The damage isn't external anymore. It's internal. They're living in what they tried to manifest for you. And every day it deepens. Every day they face what they hoped would break you. That's the real madness. Everything they said about you happened to them. They feel eyes now. The judgment they feared is no longer imagined. Their reputation wears holes. Their stories don't land. Their voice doesn't carry. They become the version of you they invented, and it's driving them insane. Because they know they can't blame you anymore. The damage is self-inflicted. You're not even in the room, and yet you're everywhere. You live in their echoes, their anxiety, their decline. Your name became a spell they tried to curse you with, and now they're choking on the incantation. That's why they spiral. That's why they over-explain to people who never asked. They're trying to control a narrative that no longer listens. Let them spin. Let them try to recover. You owe them no reaction. Their collapse is not your responsibility. You've already paid your dues, sat through the character assassination, endured the false witnesses, held your tongue through the bloodbath of betrayal. You didn't retaliate. You resurrected. And now your presence alone is confrontation. You don't need to justify yourself to anyone anymore. Your story defends itself. Because when the smoke clears and the truth remains, no one asks for proof. They remember the patterns. And you stayed consistent. You stayed solid. That's your legacy. Not the lie they told, but the truth you lived. And maybe the most twisted part is this: they still watch you. In silence, in bitterness, in awe. You are the result they never imagined. They see your growth, your glow, your refusal to collapse, and they can't compute it. Because in their head, you were supposed to be the casualty. But life had other plans. And now, they're the wreckage. Not because you punished them, but because they underestimated the one thing they never understood. Truth doesn't lose, it just waits. It waits until every mask falls, until every projection collapses, until the liar becomes the legend of their own undoing. They whispered curses behind your back, smiling through teeth that dripped with venom, convinced their poison would sink into your skin and take root. They crafted lies with surgical precision, carved wounds from words not to confront, but to corrode. Their intention was never truth. It was rot. They didn't want justice. They wanted decay. Yours. And they believed they could hide it. That the universe was deaf to the hatred spoken in private. But karma doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't require applause. It keeps the receipts. It remembers the wish, the tone, the malice behind the smile. Karma has many shapes, forms, and sizes. It doesn't knock. It doesn't ask permission. It simply arrives, tailored to the soul who called it in. And for the toxic, it often arrives wearing their own reflection. They thought malice could be managed, that wishing ruin upon you could stay contained within the four corners of their gossip. But energy never stays stagnant. What you put into the world travels, and what is rooted in harm returns home eventually. Toxic people assume they can curse without consequence, that their manipulations vanish into the ether. But the universe keeps no debts. It waits meticulously. It's not just poetic justice. It's energetic equilibrium. Every slanderous word they spoke about you, every fantasy they had of your downfall, every smile they gave while hoping you failed. It collects interest. And when it returns, it doesn't knock gently. It crashes through the doors of their stability, often through the very people they used to mock you to. You didn't have to retaliate. You were never required to fight dirty. That was the trap. They wanted to drag you down into the same mud they roll in. But you didn't flinch. You walked. That's what summoned karma faster. Because vengeance from your hands is predictable, but vengeance from the universe, that's precise and untraceable. It comes through unexpected avenues. The friend who suddenly sees through their mask, the job that crumbles after they sabotaged yours, the relationship that mimics every manipulation they once inflicted. They called it coincidence. They called it bad luck. But you know better. You know karma adapts its shape to match the wound it's repaying. It doesn't just restore balance, it educates. Karma doesn't always return as catastrophe. Sometimes it arrives as emptiness, as disconnection. as waking up one day and realizing they no longer hold anyone's loyalty, that their smile doesn't work like it used to, that their name no longer opens doors, it closes them. They wished isolation on you, and now they sit in rooms filled with people who do not trust them, who listen but do not believe, who nod but do not invest. And that's the cruelest form of justice. Not punishment, but erosion. Not destruction, but decay. Because what toxic people never calculate is that karma prefers long games. It doesn't strike, it dismantles. There was a time you questioned whether they'd ever pay, whether the universe saw the games, the betrayals, the fake concern masking real envy. You sat with that ache, wondering if walking away would be enough. It was. Because walking away while staying true to your integrity sends a signal. You handed the burden back to the universe, and the universe responded with surgical precision. It went to work where you didn't need to. It studied them the way they studied you. And now they trip over their own shadow. They speak your name and feel the weight of truth pulling at their throat. You never needed to shout. Karma memorized everything on your behalf. Their words are catching up with them now. The projections they launched like arrows have boomeranged. The lies they told now live in their own lives, reenacted scene by scene. Their relationships mirror what they once accused you of. Their job is haunted by the insecurities they buried in others. The people around them start to see it. They're not being attacked. They're being exposed. Not by you, but by pattern. Karma doesn't arrive with sirens. It arrives through consequences, through repetition, through them watching their own actions played back through other people's behavior. That's the twist. Karma teaches by mirroring. It doesn't just repay. You became untouchable not by striking back, but by rising out of reach. You didn't need to curse them. They cursed themselves every time they chose hate over healing, manipulation over maturity. And when they told others you were toxic, the irony curled around them like smoke, because those same people, those same spectators, are now watching their lives implode with eerie symmetry. You don't even need to say, "I told you so." Their eyes say it for you. Their tone says it for you. You are vindicated, not by their apology, but by their unraveling. And the more they try to explain it, the more tangled it becomes. That's karma too. The inability to lie your way out of your own reflection. Don't expect their confession. Expect their collapse. Expect their absence. Expect their disappearance from the spotlight they once thrived under. Because karma strips more than just comfort. It strips certainty. It makes them doubt the very charm they used as a weapon. The very tactics that used to work no longer work. The smiles go unanswered. The manipulation falls flat. And they don't understand why, but you do. Because you've seen the moment it turned, when the seed they planted finally bloomed. Not in your life, but in theirs. Poisonous, inescapable, and entirely self-inflicted.